Welcome to the Game Breakers podcast, where we aim to bring you tips, insights and experience from the world of sport. My name is Rob Nicholay, and today, as always, I'm joined by my co-host Danny Wilson. But today we're joined by former Hull FC, Bradford Bulls and England player, and most notably back-to-back Challenge Cup winner, winning head coach Lee Radford. Thanks for joining us, Lee.
Thank you, fellas.
Jumping Danny.
Yeah, good afternoon, Lee. Thank you very much for your time, mate. Nice, easy access to the technology today, so it's good to see you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Sweet, we'll kick off then. Like I say, where we've been doing these podcasts is getting to know the person behind the coach or the player, first and foremost. So just describe to us in one sentence, Lee Radford.
Depends who's describing it, I suppose. If I'm describing it, it's all good, I think. Don't know. Honest, I think. I'd like to think I'm honest. As a person, caring, I think. Protective, I reckon.
And that applies in all areas, as a player, a father, son, all the same.
Yeah, I think them characteristics are across the board in most things I do, definitely.
Obviously, Lee, working closely with you at Hull, know a little bit about you and your background. I know you've got two sons who are aspiring young rugby players. How does that influence or impact on your relationship, them wanting to probably follow in your footsteps?
Yeah, it's definitely had an influence in regards to their upbringing. You know, it's all they've ever known, I suppose. And I think probably brings a little bit of pressure as well, or added pressure towards them as well. But I think, you know, it's hard sometimes to differentiate from the parent to the coach. They don't tend to listen to me a great deal as a coach. But then if you say the same thing in exactly the same terminology, I'm pretty sure their ears would prick up and they'd show a different response. So, yeah, as its pros and its cons, I suppose.
I mean, that's natural. If I was to say it over what you used to say, they would listen more. How does that go with them in terms of? You said they don't listen to you when it comes to coaching and stuff. Did they ever come back to you for feedback on their performances, and how do those two get on with each other?
I think their relationships get better as they get older. I think, you know, they don't show it much, but they genuinely care for each other. So, like all teenage boys, they're always scrapping and winding each other up. And you know, Logan's got a mouth on him like his mother, and he don't know when to say, don't know when to stop and say no. So sometimes it continues and gets a little bit out of hand. But no, they're both healthy and competitive kids, and you know, both enjoy playing a lot and enjoy the game. And that was something I was conscious of when I took them down to rugby at 7 or 8 or however old I was. I didn't want to enforce it on them. I wanted them to enjoy it. I tried my best not to get involved in, you know, with any of their coaching sessions, even though you can imagine how many times, you know, he was asked. You know, I always tried and take a backward step and let them, I suppose, be the people and the players that they're going to be.
Well, obviously, still in your personal life, I know you work hard in your other interests away from the game. You tell us a little bit about that and how they came about.
Yeah, I you know, whilst playing, I wanted something to fall back on. I've obviously seen, you know, plenty of kids and players pick up an injury that finish their careers and come to the end of their careers and have nothing to fall back on. And you know, you see that so many times, time and time again. And you know, great players with the world at their feet, but you know, sustain an injury that finishes them. And I think you know, whilst at Bradford, Carl Pratt was one of them. You know, he was a Great Britain utility player, grand final winner when we signed him from Leeds. Great kid, and you know, blew both his shoulders out. And you know, at the age of 23, 24, was finished. And You know, in terms of what he'd put away and what he'd done was probably very minimal. So to see somebody go from the top of the world to the bottom so quickly was scary, I suppose. So I've always had it in the back of my mind that I would try and do something away from the game, and come up with an idea of opening a rugby shop in Hull originally, and ran that for 4 or 5 years. ISC, which is actually Hull's sponsorship at the moment, in terms of kit manufacturers, they stopped selling to retail shops. So when that closed, I just literally got a bar in town. I invested in a bar in town and turned that into a coffee bar, and somehow managed to go in that direction.
Quite obviously aware of obstacles that can come in your way, and find a way to overcome them pretty comfortably is good.
Yeah, I think you get plenty, definitely, as a sports person. You're challenged throughout your career, even when you're at your peak. Staying there is an actual challenge. So I think that's one thing any top athlete has to have is a little bit of resilience and ability to overcome challenges, without a doubt.
Yeah, just obviously you mentioned Hull there, and obviously massive ambassador for everything that we've done, recently when we were working with each other as well, and talk about being hard work and everything. How would you describe, and we've asked this to a couple of lads that we've had from Lancashire as well, how would you describe the traits of someone from Hull?
We're a different breed, I think. I think we're judged differently. Yeah, it seems to be the end of the 62. It's a corridor by itself, isn't it? It's like the last stop. Hull people. How would you describe Hull people? I think it's a blue collar. It's an old fishing city, and hard work, and from the docks. I think there's a lot of good, salt of the earth people here. It's like anywhere, I suppose. There's a lot of vermin. There's a lot of great people. There's some great athletes. There's some great sportsmen to come out of the city. So yeah, I don't think describing someone from Hull is there's one umbrella that covers everything. I think there's like most places, there's the good and the bad.
Yeah, and then do you think you reflect them? Sorry, Rob. Do you think you reflect the good, the hard-working arm of Hullensians pretty well?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I can think of plenty of people who tell me different, but I'd like to think so.
And then from there, what would you say your key values are?
I think I've already touched on it. I think I speak what I think. So I guess that comes under the honesty bracket. I think I'm pretty humble. I think at one point during my career or during my youth, I wanted to be famous, I suppose, like be recognised. And then I think at a certain point in your career or a certain stage in your life, that doesn't mean too much to you, and you're more worried about putting food on the table for your family. I think your purpose changes throughout your career. So I think, humble, hard-working and honest are, the three I'd like to think I am and try to aspire to be. Obviously every day you have a blip or you take a wrong turn sometimes, but, I try and stay to those traits as best as I can.
Again, myself and Rob both knowing you, I think they are exactly who you are, honest, and you're certainly humble. We'll talk a little bit later on about what happens when you give your opinion. People maybe disagree with that. Just gonna move on to your playing career. Obviously, starting at Hull FC, you debuted at 17. Can you take us through that journey from starting at East Hull and where that has ended up until?
Yeah, that was I couldn't believe how quick that happened. So I never met I was an okay junior, but I never met. I never got selected for England to play France every year. The age group would play France. My age actually played at Costello in Hull. so to not make that was really disappointing. And then from signing from amateur to professionally, I just hit the ground running. I don't know how, and I don't know, why there was such a quick improvement. But I think I was 16. I was 16 when I made my debut. So in the same year, I'd gone from playing under 16s in the Ulland District League to playing a Challenge Cup game for Hull FC and making my debut. And it was, timing was good. We had a new coach who wanted to invest in youth, in Phil Sigsworth. So I think that helped. We got a good draw in the Challenge Cup. We was always expected to beat Hunslet. So there was no real pressure of carrying me on the bench, I don't think. But yeah, it was certainly a special, it was a special achievement. Probably not at the time because you're just taking everything in your stride. But when you look back on that, to be the youngest player to play for the club with such a fine history and some special players before it is, that's something that makes you proud, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously not too long after that year, you moved to Bradford. How did that come about, and how did you cope with that move?
Yeah, it was controversial. That was a controversial move. So I played for Yorkshire, got picked for Yorkshire under 18s. I think the same season of making my debut, and Ryan Noble was the head coach of Yorkshire Academy at the time, and he took a real shine to me, and made a couple of phone calls when my contract was up for renewal. And Matt Elliott came over. I met Matt Elliott in secret. I met him on Morrison's car park on Aldous Road, and I actually had my old Sharks car with a big shark on the front of the bonnet, which worked out all right because when he offered me the deal, he'd not put a car in there, so straight away he had to add a car in there as soon as he saw my vehicle. So, and then me and my partner went across to Odsal and watched a game there, and that was like nothing I'd ever seen. It was that party atmosphere that, what Super League was about at the time when it started. The Bulls did it in a different way, and still spoke about now. I think how they went about that, and the marketing and the pre-game and the post-game entertainment it was like nothing I'd ever seen. So that really blew me away, and agreed to sign with them. Then got itchy feet and wanted to stay back at Hull. Didn't want to move out the city. So went to a senior player in Graham Hallis and asked him how I'd go about it, and I'd made a mistake, and what do I do? And he put me onto an agent who said he could get me out the deal at Bradford. And it wrangled on for a few weeks. I'd turned up training at Boulevard one day, and they said they needed to go to the office to sign your deal. I was panicking because I didn't want to sign for two clubs. Luckily, when I got to the office, it was just a photo. It was a blank piece of paper with me signing it, and it made the Daily Mail on the evening that I'd re-signed. And then when I come out that room, the agent had left 2 or 3 messages, begging me not to sign anything because Bradford was going to ask for a transfer fee. So it turned out, I had to go to Bradford, but it turned out it was the best forceful move that I've ever had. When you look back at my playing career.
How did you find that travel to Bradford?
It was a breeze. It was funny because where I lived, I was straight on the A63, and the time I set off, there was no traffic on the road. And then I came back to Hull in 2005. We started training at 10:30 up at Brantingham. It took me an hour. It took me an hour and 15 to get from my house to Brantingham, and I could get to Bradford quicker at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think that's called irony, isn't
it? Obviously, you said then that you wanted to stay in Hull, and for those reasons you explained, you was forced to make that step. And the years that followed, 3 minor premierships, 3 grand final winners' medals, 2 Challenge Cup winners' medals, and a World Club Challenge winners' medal. Just explain that journey, explain those moments and what it means to you, and what do you think you need to be able to achieve such success as a team and as an individual?
Those trophies and all that came. It sort of rolls off the tongue, but it wasn't a quick thing. I didn't sort of break the team break the 13 in particular till I was 21, 22. So I moved there when I was 18. I had probably 4 seasons of missing out every week and being a bit part player. So I think I was 18th man. I know. I was an 18th man in the Challenge Cup final. I was an 18th man in the World Club Challenge. I actually got told day of the game that I wasn't playing when I'd gone out to check to see what size studs I needed. Nobby gave me a tap on the shoulder and told me I wasn't playing. And I was an 18th man in the grand final as well. So I'd suffered plenty of disappointments prior to actually breaking the team. And I think that, again, that made me stronger and just want it more. And coming home crying sometimes when I've been told I wasn't playing. Literally for an hour on the motorway. It's a long time to cry for. but it happened on a few occasions, and I think that made me stronger and made me a more determined player, I think.
Does that have an impact on when you was coaching then of how you deal with players? Those moments?
I think I could sympathise with some, without a doubt. I think I can remember it's Jordan Thompson in the 16 final. Tomo missed out, and I told him 2 days before. And I can just remember passing him the information one side of the table from the other, and having a flashback of when I was sat at that table and exactly how he was thinking. So having experienced it, I think helps. It's certainly not a hindrance. That is for sure.
You said it made you stronger or more determined. How did you show that?
I don't know. I think the group of players we had there and the environment, you had to have a bit of steel and a bit of commitment about you to be successful in that team, because there were some outspoken people at the top. Your Brian Max and your Jimmy Laws, your Mike Forshaws, your Bernard Dwyers, was all old, hard-ass rugby league players, and if you weren't pulling your weight, you knew about it real quick. For some reason, they took a bit of a liking to me. I think I worked hard when I got there anyway, so I always wanted to. I remember doing pre-season and training during the day, and then coming home and going to Bodyweld on a night time just to try and get a jump on people and try and get a little bit bigger and a bit stronger. Those sorts of traits are important, I think. I think if you do the same as everybody else, you're only going to be as good as everybody else. Finding that little bit extra is important.
And obviously paid off, dividends going and winning as much as you did.
Yeah, I think, and it was, again, I've told this story a couple of times, but so I made my debut against St Helens on a Friday night. We got hammered. We got beat comfortably at St Helens, and I can remember going into Roden Meadows where we used to train up at Bradford the next day. And we'd normally start for 9 o'clock start, 9:10, and I come in and the full car park was full. Normally when I got there, I'd get there a little bit early, so just to beat the traffic really. And the car park was full. I came into Roden Meadows, and as you come through the door, you can see where the gym is. There's a sports hall, and then there was a gym. And I can just, I remember the sight. Paul Anderson was laid on his back with steam coming off his head. He'd collapsed off the rowing machine. And Mike Forshaw was they all looked like they'd just ran 6 marathons. They looked gone, and they'd all played the night before against St Helens. And I can remember coming in thinking, I've got my times wrong. So Marty Elliott's office was upstairs, so I shot upstairs to go and apologise to him. And it turns out I'd not got my time wrong. They'd all come in early and hammered themselves physically because of the defeat the night before. And I just think when that 7, 8, 9 of your senior playing group have got that mentality, then you only need a little bit of talent to actually do something. And fortunately, we had a little bit more than a little bit of talent. We just had a group of players that was incredibly driven.
You sort of spoke a little bit about environment. I think when you've got players that are doing that and prepared to be as accountable as they were, clearly, adds to that environment and obviously rewards you with some success.
I think that story. The impression it made on me as a 19-year-old was, I better pull my finger out here. I better do a little bit more. I better go a bit harder. And that, what they did, filtered down. And I don't think it's any coincidence. Your Leon Prices, your Paul Deacons, your Stuart Fieldings, your Stuart Reedens, your Rob Parkers, all came through on the back end of probably what them senior blokes, the path that them senior blokes had walked, I suppose.
Obviously, being involved within there, how hard was that then to move on, but obviously coming back home?
Yeah, it really tough. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay out of the Bulls. We had in 2005, we'd won it. But the club had hit financial pressures. I don't know whether the salary cap had just started to come in at that point as well, so that was obviously going to have massive implications. I think 13 players left the group that year, and not your average 13 players. There was the likes of Jamie Peacock, the likes of Robbie Paul, the likes of Leon Price. It tore the team to pieces really. So I was fortunate enough that Hull did come back in for me, because I ended up coming home, I suppose.
What was that, walking out from a Bradford group that's just won the league into Hull?
It was different. It was different. The environment was looser, that is for sure. Yeah, they had a lot more relaxed, that group.
Went on to captain that team, Lee. What was that like?
Tough. Probably the first time I didn't captain at junior level. Captain the academy, but that was the first time. Yeah, I think it's an incredibly challenging place to be when you're not playing particularly well, but you still have to show leadership qualities around the group, and I found that really challenging. Leading after you'd not performed well one week was tough, and I couldn't quite. It took a while to get better at that.
Obviously, leadership qualities. What were those that you thought you wanted to bring to the group?
I don't know. I thought I was honest. I always wanted to be a player that players liked playing with. Like the fact that you was lined up next to him. That was always my. That's always what I wanted to be. From the get-go, and I always tried to be that thing.
And obviously, transitioning then into coaching. Was that over time, and then was it something that you always wanted to do, was go into coaching?
No, that was something I really enjoyed it. I got an opportunity to coach an under-8s team at East Hull, and took them right through to under-16s, and I think we got 7 lads signed professional from that team. I think 3 of them played Super League, which was, from one team is a pretty big achievement. I think Scott Spav went on to play, Liam Cunningham went on to play for Hull, and obviously Josh Hodgson went to play as well. And then a number of them played Championship as well. So I really enjoyed that, watching them grow up. And when you watch some of the videos back, it's entertaining. And then during that period, also got asked to coach the open age team at East Hull as well. So was coaching 2 teams during the week, which, for a lad that played in Bradford as well, didn't have much spare time on my hands, that's for sure.
What made you commit? When you hadn't got that much spare time, why did you commit to that?
I don't know, I enjoyed it, really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the kids develop, I think. I always, back in my mind, wanted to go into it. It's what I wanted to do past my playing career. And I just thought I'd get a jump on it. But yeah, I had some great times doing it as well, at amateur level, because, them kids, particularly at open age, they're at work all day, finishing at 5:30, racing to get to training, and then giving up an hour, 2 hours at a time. they're doing it for the love. They're not doing it for anything else but the love of the game, I suppose.
Obviously, you had success as a coach, and people will always see. I mean, people in Hull, I know you will, but not everybody will see the background and the apprenticeship you've served. Coaching under 8s, coaching a men's team at amateur, all the way through. You've mentioned that you're an honest bloke and humble, but your coaching philosophy, what you want in a player, how you want your team to play. What is? Can you articulate your coaching philosophy to us? Can you tell us what it is and what values as a coach you hold?
Yeah, I think you want the team to represent yourself, and when they don't, that's extremely disappointing. And those traits you've just spoke about. You try your absolute hardest in terms of recruitment to bring them type of people in, and you try and keep hold of the ones that have that in the locker room. But ultimately, you don't really see the player till he comes through the door. So sometimes you get really lucky, and sometimes you don't. The good coaches get it right more times than wrong, I suppose.
And then
I think. Sorry, Rob, I was going to touch on it because what about mentally there in terms of the players coming in and be.
Yeah, I think what I spoke about there at Odsal, what we had at Odsal, I think every player starts at a similar playing level at academy when they sign at 15, 16. Some players develop because they develop physically better, but most players, the ones that come through, the ones that want it more than the kid next to them and want to go that extra yard, and want to show that competitiveness, and not in a sulky manner. Want to compete for everything they do to get better. And I think ultimately that's what differentiates an average player from a great player. That they want to compete, they want to get better constantly, and the more you can get of that caliber, the better team you're going to have, and make sure there's no ceiling for that as well. I think in Hull, we've been guilty previously of once somebody's made the team in Hull, they're halfway there. I think, across the country, at other clubs, I think they want to aspire to be the best international player they can be, and I think that's somewhere where we've fell short a little bit in years gone by.
Just just on the back of that, then, do you think a lot of that for you, personally? Obviously, you went to Bradford, didn't you? And was out of that sort of goldfish bowl that is Hull. I think that's where a lot of lads maybe fall down within our area is simply because it is like a magnifying glass on you.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. I think some can fall in love with themselves, and I think some can, fall because of the pressure. And there is pressure. I've lived it. I've lived it for the last 7 years as a coach and years prior to that. But yeah, of course, it's one of them. You can crumble underneath it, or you can count your lucky stars. You're blessed that you're playing in front of your own fans every week, and that's what's got to be done. That's the attitude that's got to be taken. I want to come out here and represent these supporters as best I can.
Yeah, and you just mentioned obviously the first Wembley Cup final, but first win, and then ultimately back-to-back wins. Just describe what that was like as a coach compared to a player.
Just sense of achievement, I think. And you know what? It was a big fingers up to everybody who sort of doubted. I think when I first got the job, I was known as the pub landlord, and we signed a dustbin man in Fituli, if you remember, my first season, and that's what was thrown about, and wherever you turned, that's what was thrown in your direction. So to get up on a podium and almost say, I told you so. There's not much more self gratification than that.
So was there any?
That was surreal. I honestly, thought we was going to do it a third time as well. I genuinely did. we had an unbelievable misfortune in that game against St Helens in the quarter-final at their place. I think we got 3 men sin-binned and had 3 men off the field at one point and nearly got them at the end as well. But yeah, it's that's me just being greedy, I think.
Obviously, with the pressure that there was in and around, especially that first cup final win, was there any tactics that you approached the game with? What was sort of going through your head? How did you manage that first sort of big final that the club have been involved in a while?
Our kicking game was really important that year. In fact, both years, and went a long way to winning the competition both times. I think the semi-final against Leeds, we'd obviously earmark that Tommy Brisk was just coming back from a shoulder injury, and the strapping he had on his left arm restricted him lifting his arm above his head. So aerially, we thought we had the jump there, and I think we scored 3 tries off that in the semi. And then in the final, Chrissy Sandow defending outside of Ryan Atkins, we thought, if we can put Mahe on his head, we'd have an opportunity to out-jump him on every occasion. And thankfully we had a kicker in Mark Sneed who can put the ball on a 50-pence piece when he wants to. And we scored some real important tries off kicks in probably the lead-up and the finals in both seasons.
Must be absolutely ecstatic when your tactics that you put together as a coach, a group of coaches come off and the players deliver it. You have a bit of a reputation, Lee, as a bit of a tough bloke. Speculation around when players don't always follow your tactics or it doesn't always go on, that you maybe rule with an iron fist. Is that true? Or, I've heard that you've been knocking players out for fun if they don't do as they tell.
I've heard that as well, yeah. Some of the stories are crazy, Even when I got dismissed, I think there was some whispers going around. There was bust-ups in the changes. He couldn't be further from the truth. I think one of the, my biggest attributes as a coach is my relationship with the players. All of the players. The fact that I stay in touch with 99% of the players that I've ever coached now, tells you that is a big part of the job, I think. And there's times when you have to have a stern word, without a doubt. You have to be forceful in what you say to get your message across. There's times when shouting and screaming and kicking probably don't get a point across. I think you can only do that once or twice a season. Show that response, because past that, I think they start to become numb to it. So, and the fact that you've played the game as well, and you've probably sat in some of them air dryer treatments, and yourself, you sat there not wanting to play poorly or not wanting to execute how your coaching staff have asked you to. That I can sympathise with players in that respect as well. So trying to find a solution and a way out of it sometimes, don't always mean screaming and shouting, but sometimes I think it can have a bit of an impact on the group.
You spoke about, as a player, you wanted to be that player that people wanted to have in the trenches with them, beside them, and trust you. And I think what you're saying there is probably reflective as a coach as well. The players, you wanted them to want to play for you. And I think the relationship you built up with all the players from being experienced or exposed to that, it is genuine, it's true, the relationship you can see, and then players wanting to play from you because of what the rapport you build up. I think that's a testament to your character.
Yeah, again, I always think back to Pete Sharp, when Pete Sharp was at Hull, his second season. So we hit the grand final in 2006, his second season. I think he was dismissed in his second season. And I can remember going to Catalan, I was playing at Catalan, we'd lost some games. I think the Paul Cup saga had just started to unravel. And I can remember doing the pre-game walk around the park in Catalan, and Steve Crooks pulled us and said, look, it's all over the radio that Pete's going to get fired if we don't get a result today. And I can remember, it was because I had a really strong, still got a great relationship with Pete now, and it was horrible. It was an horrible feeling to think, if I don't perform here, I'm going to cost this man his job. And I ended up playing poor, really poor. And it's one of them, when you're in form and you're playing well, it's like flight mode. You just take the field, you've got a smile on your face, you've got a spring in your step. And somehow it just happens. And sometimes you can go completely the other way when you try too hard. And, I can sympathise with players in that respect as well.
Who was the best? You maybe don't want to name anybody, or you might. Who was the best player or players that you've coached, and why?
I don't know. I think I ain't going to tell you because he'll probably get sticky. He's still at the club, so he'll just be a laughing stock around the church when they get back in training. So I'll keep that to myself. But players that you see go out and genuinely try and do the action that you've asked them to. That's satisfying as a coach when you can see that.
And probably the journey you've seen them probably go on. You maybe work with them from a young age and see them come through a system and perform the way you know they could at top level, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And there's been some that surprised me. Some have been better than I thought they would have been, and some that fell. And it was a crying shame that they probably haven't had better careers, I suppose. And sometimes there's a little bit of luck involved in that, in terms of selection. Sometimes there's a bit of luck involved in that in terms of who's in front of you and the quality of player that's in front of you. But most of the time, I think, the ones that get that opportunity and take it and then don't let it go, they're the players you can build a team around.
We touched on earlier about, obviously, when you're at Bradford and the coaches that you've been under. Who's the best coach that you've worked with and why?
I think all different. I think I've worked with technically very good coaches, but personality-wise, not somebody you'd go and have a beer with. I've also worked with blokes that technically and probably work ethically don't are at the top of the tree, but they're great at getting a team up and off their asses. So I think finding that balance is important, and that's where I thought Peter Sharp was really good in that respect. Technically, he was really good. He simplified things, but he if you had a question, he had an answer, and there was something there was substance behind the answer. But as a bloke as well, he was a great bloke, and just could read his players. Some days he'd come in and could see you was hobbling about everywhere, and he was trying your best to get on the field, and he'd send you home and say come back tomorrow. And just reading the group, he was very good at.
And now you've had obviously a bit of time, and everyone's had a bit of time with this COVID.
Everybody has, hasn't they? Yeah. So much time, I think.
Exactly, but with it,
did you just cough then?
It's not isolate now.
Yeah.
Now you've had that bit of time to reflect on your time, especially the time that you've had at Hull. What would you say you'd like to improve within your coaching?
Me as a coach, what I'd like to improve. I think you're constantly wanting to improve. I think you're constantly wanting to develop. I think technically, I think you want to get better and you want to adjust as well as you possibly can. But also, I think reading people and knowing what to say and when to say is also important as well.
Yeah, you think that becomes harder when you've been at a club for such a long time?
I don't know. I think that's that longevity. It's funny. I listened to a podcast last week. The Crusaders coach, can't remember his name, blonde-haired kid, and he I think they've won the competition over there 4 or 5 times and created a bit of a dynasty over there. And, his one of their strengths was the fact that their understanding as a team, they've been together for such a long time, And I felt towards sort of halfway point, back end point, we needed to make changes. We needed to freshen up a little bit because it does get a little bit mundane. And I think that's your Alex Fergusons and your Wayne Bennett's of the Broncos to have such a long reign. That's one of the sort of greatest mysteries on the planet. How did they continuously freshen things up? I think that's a difficult thing to do, particularly in rugby, because the play turnover is probably not as big as it is in football as well.
Yeah. This is just as we start to wrap things up. This is a question that I've asked everybody. But what would you say, especially since you've been coaching from under 8s all the way to first team, everyone's got a go-to drill. Then when you're struggling or under the pump and you've got to pull something out, what is your favourite coaching activity and why?
I love a 2-on-1 drill. Just smile on your face, ball in your hand, make a bit of a joke about it if somebody pats the ball down. The continuous 2-on-1 drill, that's nice and simple. You need 4 corners, plenty of players in a ball.
Happy days.
I've seen you kicking rugby balls into bins.
I've just been doing that in the garden earlier, actually.
It's one of them, though, isn't it? To be fair, we've been lucky, that we've been able to be around, when you've been coaching, and some of the stuff that is innovative that you do. You think outside the box. I think, like say 2-beat-1 drill is great, but some of the stuff that you do that's not seen, I think, groundbreaking is maybe the wrong word, but it's innovative and you think outside the box to get the best out of your players.
Yeah, I think that I'm a nerd like that. Not just at rugby, at everything though. Like I honestly think I'm really good at DIY sometimes and try some real mad stuff in the garage. 99% of it falls flat on its backside, but every now and then, one comes through. We had some nets made at County Road for kicking, and it basically was a trampoline, and I'd wired it to the big metal poles, thinking when you kick the ball at it, it'd spring back at you. And putting that up took about 3 days, and then when we kicked the first ball at it, the ball just hit it and basically sank straight down the obviously all the boys had seen me working on it for days and days and days on end, but when my percentage isn't really high, but every now and then one will come through.
Confidence and self-belief, that's what you want.
I keep telling myself I'm right all the time.
How good you are. But again, tying into that work ethic, at County Road, there's so much stuff you did do. I think it's important that you probably talk about your wrestle room that you built and the adaptations you had to make there.
But everybody mocks me for that wrestle area, but I had a $5,000 budget, and I thought I strung every penny out for that, to be fair, and it's still there, it's still standing, and it's still, people are still learning how to miss tackles in there, so it's still serving them.
It's the only building with an inside drain and gutter.
I can't tell you how many hours I've spent in there mopping the condensation up off the ceiling.
So good. Supports Rob's innovation theory. Well done for that. The last question on our list is about your ability to ask any player or coach, past or present, in any sport, a question. Who would you ask and what would you ask?
I think I just touched on it. I think it'd be Alex Ferguson, and I think it would be longevity. How did you continually freshen the environment up? I think I know some of it because I've read a little bit of it, but I'd like to hear it from the guy's mouth. I suppose they obviously had an unbelievable youth structure. So when the generation of Scholes, a generation of Scholes and Beckham and the Nevilles came through, that naturally freshened things up. But to do it for 20 years, I think I did it for 7 and sort of struggled towards the last couple. So to do it for 20 is pretty special. And I know it's different in football where you can continuously change your medical team and your assistants and conditioning staff. You probably don't do that in league as much. So that might be one answer. But yeah, I'd like to know that.
Outstanding. Is it reasonable to ask what's next for Lee Radford now, or is there some downtime? Or
What's his space? watch this space. We'll see.
Outstanding. Well, look, thank you for your time. Thanks for joining us, and wish you all the best in the future, lads, and keep in touch.
No dramas. Cheers, fellas. Thank you.
Cheers, lads. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, fellas. Bye.